Hello class, I'm on exercise 3-3. We are going to create a little park bench. So we're going to close any open files, and then we are going to say File, New, and Family. And then from the template that pops up, we are going to look for Furniture. So we've got Furniture here, and we're going to say Open. And then we're going to tile our windows. So under View, we can tile our windows, and we want to double click on the right elevation to enlarge it. And now you don't see anything. So you're like, where's my drawing? Well, if you double click on your mouse wheel in the space, it will bring everything, zoom everything into the center of the screen. We're going to activate the Create ribbon, and we're going to select Forms Extrusion, and we're going to activate the Insert tab. So we're going to go to Insert, we're going to import a CAD file, and we want to import the Park Bench CAD file. And I want to check these parameters down here to make sure everything's the same. This should be manual origin, and reference level, and orient to view. And then we're going to say Open. Okay, and then the park bench appears on that reference level. On the Properties pane over here, we want to set the end extrusion to 4 feet. So we're going to say 4 feet and then Apply. And then we're going to left click in the Material column to assign a material. So material, you can click on these 3 dots. This opens the material dialog box. Then we want to open the asset browser down here, which contains a bunch more materials. We're going to type redwood into this box, and it's going to, if I could just spell it right, redwood, and we'll do a little search for redwood. Alright, we're going to highlight the default material over here in our project browser, and then we're going to highlight the redwood, and you'll see that there's these little arrows that pop up. We want to import this redwood material into that default material, so I'm going to click that, and it will pull that redwood over there. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to rename the default to redwood, and then I am going to say OK. Alright, now I'm going to zoom in on this park bench, and I need to clean up the sketch so there's no intersecting lines. So you can do this by using the Trim and Split tools and Delete. So I like to just split right here, and then I can use the Trim tool. I can click here, and you actually click on what you want to keep, not what you want to get rid of. It's a little different than CAD. If that makes sense. I want to get rid of all these hatch lines, so I'm just going to draw a window around them and hit delete that, and then I'm going to split up here, split this, and I will use the Trim tool here. I click what I want to keep. Oh, you know what? I can just delete that line. That's why it wasn't letting me do it. Trim here, trim. Okay, and then down here again we can split this, and then we can trim. I would like to keep this, and I would like to keep this. And split, and then trim, keeping, trim here, and keeping. Okay, so now I have no intersecting lines. Wonderful. Now I'm going to hit the green check box to finish my extrusion. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to 3D view. So I can go View 1. Actually, this doesn't look right. I'm going to go to the 3D view. There we go. 3D view. And I'm going to change my view to realistic. And now I can see the redwood on here in my park bench. It says to activate the back elevation. Now, I found this difficult when doing this the first time. So what I'm going to do is I actually recommend, let's try to work in 3D view so we can just see what's happening here. Alright, if we look a little bit ahead in the book, we can see that it's wanting us to create a plaque that goes on this part of the bench. Okay, so I'm just going to stay in this view. I think it will help you. And I'm going to go to the Create tab, and I want to set the work plane. Okay, and I want to set the work plane to pick a plane, and then say OK. And I want to pick this plane right here. Okay, and once I have that set, I'm going to hit show. So you can see that it's picked that plane right on the front face of this bench. Now I'm going to stay in this view, just as I think it's easier, and I'm going to select Create Extrusion, and I'm going to select the material from the Properties palette down here, click on this, and I want to create a new material, so that's this, create a new material, and I want this material to be called aluminum, so we're going to rename this and call it aluminum. Okay, and then I'm going to launch the asset browser, and I want to search for aluminum in here, and hit enter, and I want to find aluminum blue anodized, so you're going to have to scroll down a bit. So once you find blue anodized, just import that material over there, then we can close out the project browser. Alright, then a couple more things that we need to do is we want to check under graphics, use rendered appearance. And what that's going to do is when you render the drawing, it will show it with this blue texture. Okay, and we're going to say OK, and then we're going to set the extrusion end to 1/4 inch. So you have to actually type in 0 feet here, and then we'll type in 1/4 inch, and we'll hit apply. Alright. Then we're going to say, I'm going to stay right in this view, and I'm going to select the rectangle view tool, and I am going to draw a rectangle right around this face, so from here to here. And if it's not letting you do it, even though we have the right plane, I'm going to use the Pick Lines tool. Okay, and then I'll just have to do some trimming, because I don't know if you noticed, but it picked a line way down there, and I don't want that, so I will trim that up. Okay, so now I have this rectangle selected, and it actually looks like it's not trimmed, so like the 3D view is somewhat easier, but then in some ways it's not, because you have to look at the detail. Okay. Now I need to offset these 2 inches. So let's see if we can use the offset command to say 2 inches, uncheck copy, and we'll see if we can offset this line down 2 inches and in. See how it's just moving it? That's nice. And right there. Okay. Then we're going to use the fillet arc tool here, and we're going to check radius, and we're going to change this to 1 inch, and we are going to just make curves all around this extrusion. Okay, and then once we're done with that, we're going to check the green checkbox, and we have our extrusion right here on the face of our bench. Alright, and then we're going to, it says select the left elevation view, so we can see there is our extrusion, and it wants us to create a reference plane, so we're going to create a reference plane, and it says use the pick tool, which is right here, and we're going to pick the outside of the aluminum face, and now I'm just going to hit modify. If you do that, you have to hit tab to reselect the reference plane. You may not have wanted to hit modify because it's hard to get the reference plane back, but you can get it. See, now it's selecting my here. I'm going to turn thin lines on real quick. Where's my thin lines tool? Is missing. There it is. There. Alright, so now this is a little bit easier for me. There. I'm going to pull this reference line up and pull it down so it extends past this point. Okay, and then I want to click on it, and I want to call it front of plate. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to go to the create set, and I want to select my reference plane to front of plate, and then I'm going to say OK. And then it says which view, and I'm going to select elevation back view and say open view. Alright, and now, you know what, I'm still going to work in 3D because I think it's just easier. So We're going to still work in 3D. And now what we're going to do is we are going to select the model text from the ribbon. So up here, model text. And in this, you want to write, "In memory of our fallen soldiers." Once you have that written, say OK, and then try to plop it like somewhere over here. We're going to fix it. So, okay. So now we want to select the text we just created, and we want to select Edit Type, and we are going to duplicate, and we're going to call it Model Text 2, and we're going to say OK. And we're going to change the size to 2 inches instead of 6 inches. And we're going to say OK. Alright, and now we are going to use the Rotate tool here. And we're going to try to rotate this text around so that it's straight. Alright, and this is the only thing that gets a little tricky in 3D, because how do you make it straight? So if you have trouble with that, just go to the back elevation. Actually undo my rotation. And you can rotate it a little bit easier in here. It's okay to switch back and forth. So we'll rotate our text 90 degrees, and then we'll move that text up here, "In memory of fallen soldiers." And then we want to set the depth for our text to 1/8 of an inch instead of 6 inches. And we're going to say Apply. Okay, and then we're going to create a new material. So click in the material box, create a new material. We're going to rename this material Brass, and then we're going to open the asset browser. We're going to search for brass, hit enter. We want to find brass satin and import that material. Close out the box. We want to make sure that we, under graphics, we check use rendered appearance, and then we are going to say OK. And now we're going to check that does say brass. We're going to switch to 3D view here. And we should be able to see our text. Now mine looks like it's missing, and I have a feeling it's because it stuck it in too deep. So this is actually sticking out. See this? And it should be going back instead of in. So let me see if I can fix that real quick. So I'm going to click on this and see what the deal is. How about if I put my extrusion end at a -1/4 inch and hit apply? There we go. Well, now the only trouble with that is that it's not cutting it out properly. Ooh, it's getting a little weird, isn't it? Let me undo that and figure out how I can fix this. Okay, so to fix it, just go back to that back elevation. It just fell out of its work plane. Click on it, say pick new from work plane, and then pick this blue, say it's highlighting it in blue, and then click. And now if you look at it in 3D, there we go. It's all appropriately placed. Alright. Okay, we're going to stay in this view to do our void extrusion. I'm just going to tip this up a little bit so I can see the bottom part of the bench. I am going to go to Create, set the work plane, pick a plane, say OK, and I want to select the front part of this bench. Alright, great. I'm going to go to Create, Forms, Void Extrusion, and then I'm going to use the Rectangle tool to draw a rectangle around. If that doesn't work, which it doesn't, we're going to use Pick Lines. And we're just going to pick the lines around it. Just be careful that you're picking the right lines, and then you're going to have to do a cleanup with the trim tool. Once you have your lines selected, we can use the offset command. If you find this too difficult, just go to an elevation. I just prefer working in the 3D view. Doesn't mean you have to as well. Oops, uncheck copy. Okay, once you have your 2-inch offset set, we're going to fill it again with the radius of 1 inch. Just go all the way around your structure, or your lines, excuse me, and fill at those corners. We're going to set the void extrusion end to 8 inches here. And we're going to hit apply. And then we're going to hit the green check mark. And what should happen is if we click off of this, yep, there is a nice gap that goes all the way back through our bench. And then we can create, just turn that show off. That's the end of that. And then be sure to save it as Park Bench.